Hello, Razballers. I'm your host, Brent Carlson. Welcome to the Razball Fantasy Basketball Podcast. This week, I was joined by Razball basketball and hockey writer Viz. We're going to get into the first week of the season, players that have surprised us, players we're worried about. Of course, we're going to talk about the Rondo-Chris Paul fight and the fantasy fallout. I've also heard it referred to as Spitgate. We're going to look at players that you should target to buy low, players you should just continue to ignore, and a whole lot more. So if you like what we do here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. That way you get all our videos with waiver ads and sleepers and updates throughout the week. If you want to listen to the entire podcast or download it so you can listen in your car, I'll put the link in the description below. So here comes the show. Enjoy. Hey, welcome Razballers to another edition of the Razball Fantasy Basketball Podcast. This is Brent Carlson, Razball writer, host of the show, and I'm joined today by Razball writer. He writes all the Razball hockey stuff. Joined today by Viz. How you doing, Viz?
Good, Brent. I'm glad to be back and ready to talk some basketball.
Yeah, let's talk about some fun stuff since being a Buffalo Bills fan up there isn't so fun these days. But I know you're a Utah Jazz fan. So that
hasn't been much better either. I mean, it was. I'm not upset about the loss at the buzzer to Golden State, but losing at home today to Memphis isn't too hot. But it is what it is. It's 3 games into the year.
So jumping right in, this is just kicking off the NBA season. We're a week into the season. Viz, anything jump out at you this first week from a fantasy basketball perspective? Any players that you're worried about? Any players you're happy about?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few for sure. A guy who's still available in a third of leagues, and I was kind of surprised just given how well he started, is Caris LeVert. He's getting big minutes, and Atkinson that we talked about in the preseason, he never played anyone over 30 minutes, but he's at 34, 32, 28. The points have been big. He's averaging 4 assists, the rebound. Everything's really there for LeVert, and like I said, he's still available in a third of leagues. He's going to help you across the board, really. I mean, the steals are decent enough for a wing. The blocks aren't really going to hurt you. At least, I don't know if the 4 assists a game is necessarily going to keep up, but with the amount he has the ball, I don't see why why he couldn't do that. And if that's the case, you're looking at a guy who's probably going to end up, I don't know, in the top 50 to 70 overall range by the end of the season that you can pick up off the waiver wire right now.
Yeah, if he's on waivers, pause this right now and go get him. Because, but if you're a Razball listener, then chances are you saw my top 5 sleepers article and video where Caris LeVert was my number 1 sleeper. And number 2 is a guy who also has gotten off to a really fast start and looks like he's going to get a lot of volume, and that's Cedi Osman.
Yeah, he's looked really good. I mean, Cleveland as a whole has been kind of a mess, but they're running the offense through him a decent amount, and it's good to see, really. I mean, it has the feelings that it's going to be somewhat of a lost year for Cleveland. I know it's only 3 games, but I just don't see how they're going to stop anybody. So many teams are playing insanely fast, starting with the Lakers, number 1. Their pace is just bonkers. It's giving a lot of guys additional possessions, and Osman's taking advantage of it.
Absolutely. And, I think it's a combination of the success like the Warriors have had and the Rockets have had with the high-paced offense, but also the new rules. What do they call them? The freedom of movement is really, it's sort of like what they did in the NFL when they opened up the passing attack, where they stopped allowing the defensive guys to put their hands on the receivers. It's just letting guys move more freely, and these guys are so athletic now. I mean, these 7-footers who can dribble and drive, and you give them, you're not allowed to body up on them or put a hand on them. There's hardly any way to stop that other than just hope they miss.
Yes. So, a lot of teams started to copy Golden State 2 years ago on offense, and they just failed miserably. And on defense now, too, you're seeing a lot of teams try to switch everything and they don't have Draymond Green. They don't have Clint Capella. They don't have these guys. And it kind of leads to another guy who I like, which is Julius Randle. And, the last pod I was on, I said I thought the Pelicans were going to be the 4 seed. I really love the team. And granted, it's only a few games, but the three-headed monster in the front court's been amazing. And all these teams keep switching everything. And Julius Randle, I mean, if I had to pick one guy to back somebody down in the league, it's probably him. He is such a tank. And, as bad as Harden is on defense, he's actually pretty decent as a post-up defender. But a few times in that first game of the year, Randall's absolutely buried him. He buried pretty much anyone on him, and it was the same thing against the Kings. And I know he's only playing 24 minutes, and he's not a big steals and blocks guy at all, but he still could be a double-double machine playing 24 minutes. We talked about it before, too, where, a lot of these centers now, they can only play 25 minutes and still be 12 irrelevant for fantasy. And I think Randall's going to be in that role, especially in a head-to-head league. In a roto league, it's tougher to carry a big that's going to give you only like half a block and half a steal. But in a head-to-head league, with streaming, you're more likely to get away with it. And I think I just really like the Pelicans. I don't see why that team can't push 50 wins, assuming health.
Yeah, I mean, Nikola, talking about guys who've been going crazy in the beginning of the year, Nikola Mirotic. Who would have thought that of the three Nikolas in the league, actually all three of the Nikolas have been superstar fantasy players. I don't know what it is about that name, but Mirotic, Jokic, and Vucevic are lighting it up. So, there's going to be a lot of kids named Nikola over in the Serbia, Yugoslavian area or wherever they're from. Mirotic is just, he single-handedly got people, 8-point week ones, I think.
Oh, yeah. They only played 2 games. They still have only played 2 games, which is kind of, tough if you have those guys, but you might as well have played 3. He had 11 threes in 2 games. He had 9 and 10 rebounds. He had over 30 points both games. And, last year he actually was pushing a steal and a block a game with the Pelicans. He was actually 1 steal and 0.9 blocks exactly. So assuming that gets back too, it's going to be really good. The free throws for a really good 3-point shooter, Mirotic isn't that great of a free throw shooter, but normally he doesn't get the volume. Their offense is just so dangerous.
See why you were excited about them, and I think a lot of it came down to sort of how Mirotic, Randle, and Davis would gel, and it's looking brilliant right now. Another guy who I think people should keep an eye on, just based off just what he can do in a limited amount of time, and it's somebody that I had kind of taken at the end of a couple of bigger drafts, was Zach Collins on Portland.
Yes.
He came out that first game, he got 26 minutes. He 6 points, 6 boards, 6 blocks. If you need blocks, like volume of blocks, he's already got 2 blocks tonight in just 10 minutes. He didn't have any the second game, but he did hit 2 threes, 11 points and 5 boards in just 15 minutes. He was 4 of 5. He's going to help your field goal percentage. He can stretch it out to 3. He can block them in bunches. I just think as the season goes on, he's going to get more comfortable, and they're going to feel more comfortable playing him out there a little bit next to Nurkic more. Do you think it's a little too early to get excited about Collins, or should people be?
I don't think he'll ever be that good of a 3-point shooter, but there's no reason why he can't be a defensive force and get the blocks up. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me if he ends up playing so well that it limits how many minutes Nurkic plays. Nurkic has actually started fairly well, but he was a guy I was concerned about because, not counting, the game while we're recording, he's played 17, 23, and 21 minutes only. Now, he's had 16 and 9, 12 and 8, and 16 and 13, and the steals are there randomly. The blocks aren't. But if his minutes aren't creeping up higher than that, it's hard for him to be that good of a producer. I assume he'll still stay 12 irrelevant, but it's to the point where, if Collins emerges and Nurkic is having a rough day, Stotts he doesn't have to play him. Collins is good enough that they don't have to force it, with Nurkic. And he's the kind of guy that pouts, and if he has a bad game, he sulks and he starts to take bad shots. So, it's, comparable to Utah. I was going to say Ricky Rubio's a guy I have a bit of concern about because, And he was a guy I loved going into the season. It's the first time in his career he's had the same coach for back-to-back years, and he's in the same system. But if he's not playing well like he did today, they have Exum. They'll play Burks. They'll play Ingles. They'll go with all wing lineups. They're not going to force Rubio into 30-plus minutes like they did last year. And, again, we talked about how Biggs especially can get by with only playing 20 to 25 minutes, but it really caps these guys' ceilings if they're not playing 30 minutes. And
what about Boban? I mean, it seems like in the right matchups, he's gonna get his 15 to 20 minutes. Where I'm a little disappointed those two big games he had no blocks because nobody even wants to get close to him for him to block it. But I mean, he looks so effortless when I was watching. When he gets the ball in there, it's amazing, and his feet are like barely off the ground.
Dunks ever.
Yeah,
that one dunk where he even jumped.
He just reached over a guy's head.
Yeah,
I'll try to find a clip of that. Yeah,
if he played 20 minutes, like normally you would think he'd get a block at least in that stretch.
Yeah,
and
like they throw it off his head or something by accident.
Right. And he is going to have elite free throw percentage, like for anybody, let alone a big. So if he could even maintain like 16 to 18 minutes a night, I feel like he could average, I don't know, 14 points and 7 rebounds. And if he gives you a block in that stretch, again, he's going to have an elite field goal percentage and free throw percentage, and it becomes valuable right there. And it's hard to hold him because you go against a team like Houston or Golden State, and he's really not going to be able to play unless unless Doc is stubborn about it. But I don't think he's going to be. But he's a guy, at least, especially if you're a DFS player and you see like who the team they're going against is. If they're playing Utah, Boban's playing that night. It's going to happen. So you get that. It's going to be dirt cheap, and you can just take the chance that he gives you that 18 and 80 you did against Denver. That's a huge night for a guy who's going to be near minimum salary and can make a huge difference.
Okay, then they play Houston, and Harrell goes nutty, and Boban plays about like 5 minutes or something.
Right, it's all matchup based for them.
Totally. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's kind of been a surprise. I thought Beverly was going to be a good fantasy guy, but he's got off to a really slow start, and Alexander really cutting into his time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't even consider owning Beverly at this point. And Shea's another guy by the end of the year. I think he's going to be must own because if they end up out of it at all, he's going to be getting huge minutes. And he's already at, 25, 26 a game. It's going to be up and down, obviously, like any young guy. But if I was in a dynasty league, I would really like having him. I like the way that the game looks kind of, I don't want to say easy for him, but he lets it come to him. He doesn't force anything. He's going to be a guy who is a decent rebounder for a point guard. The steals should be there. I know he only has 2 in 3 games so far, but
yeah, with his length, his arm length and stuff, and playing those smaller guards, he's going to get in the way of a lot of passes. Another guy who maybe is kind of a sneaky pickup right now until he gets hurt. You look at JJ Barea in like 15 to 20 minutes, he's averaging like 10 assists. And his shooting percentage isn't the greatest, but he's still under where his career percentage. So there's room for improvement there. You're going to get a couple of threes, probably 10 to 12 points, 10 to 11 to 12 assists, and a couple of steals. He even had some rebounds for his size, which is surprising. So do you think Barea is a worthy pickup, or until he gets hurt? Obviously, he seems to be hurt every year.
I mean, it depends on your team needs, like you said. It's very hard to find assists on the waiver wire.
Yeah,
and this is your chance, really. Like I don't know if we're even going to expect him to average more than say like 2 or 3 rebounds if he's only playing 20 minutes a night. It's clear when he's out there, everything is going through him, though. I mean, to get that many assists in that short a period of time is crazy. And he's going to give you threes too. He's made a couple threes in the first game and then one the next game. The steals should be decent enough in that short of time frame. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mind using him at all. Like I said, it's hard to find assists on the waiver wire, and he's obviously the best candidate by far to grab if you need it.
Totally. And then, Rondo too is a guy I was able to snatch off waivers in a bunch of leagues after his hot start. So should we touch on the fight a little bit since I brought up Rondo and the suspensions?
Sure.
I guess when Rondo got 3 games, Paul got 2 because they had video of Rondo spitting on Paul, so they took it a little easier on him. And then Ingram, who just went straight street mode when he heard fight, some instinct kicked in to just jump in and hit anybody.
Right.
Yeah, so he got 4. I've heard people calling into sports shows saying like he should have got like 30 games.
I mean,
something like that.
I wouldn't go that far, but I do feel like all 3 of the guys got off pretty light.
I was surprised.
I feel like David Stern was the commissioner. It would have been something like, I don't know, 15 for Ingram, 10 for Rondo, and like 7 or 8 for Paul. I do feel like Ingram got off very like being the third guy in the second time through after it kind of simmered down a little bit is pretty bad.
Yeah,
it's a good break for both teams, really. I mean, the West is going to be such a battle, and neither team has started off well. That if they would have missed these guys for more time, it would have been trouble. And for fantasy purposes, it's nice because, I mean, you can hold on to Ingram. It's 1 week and not playing. Paul's going to miss Wednesday's game against Utah, and he'll be back after that. So it's very manageable for you to get by that short a period of time, where if the guy was suspended for 3 weeks or something, it becomes really hard for you to hold on to a guy, especially Ingram or Rondo. Like Paul, you have to suck it up. But even Ingram, if he was out that long, I would have a tough time in a head-to-head league holding on to him that long, eating the 0 and being that far behind in games played every week. So at least we avoided that.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's going to be big minutes for Lonzo too.
Mm-hmm.
So this is his chance to sort of step up and take some minutes away from Rondo, because Rondo was playing. He was arguably one of the best players on the team.
Right.
The way he was playing in the beginning of the year. So
I'm interested to see what they do with Ingram's minutes, because I feel like their best bet is to play Hart more and play him with KCP and go kind of small around LeBron and play Ball, because Ball's big enough. And, if KCP guards the point guards, even if he's like the 3 on offense, that him and Hart can kind of manage, especially if they're switching everything. But Hart just seems like such a natural fit with LeBron. I really like the way those two are together, that I'd try to get them more minutes playing together. And if Hart's minutes come up, I mean, steals and blocks, steals especially have been good. He's got some decent fantasy upside too. I'm just trying to think, like, what's the alternative? Are you going to play like Michael Beasley and more? I mean, I guess you can give Kuzma more minutes, but Ingram's playing a lot, and that's a lot of minutes to make up. You don't want to play Lance too much. So I'm interested to see what Walton does with those minutes.
Yeah, I mean, tonight, really, it's been hard off the bench, getting about the same minutes as the starters. He was my number 1 waiver pickup that I did. I did a video for waiver pickups right at the beginning of the season, right before the season started, just people who might not have got drafted. And Hart was my number 1. Like, if people gave up on him or whatever, that he could just do it all from a fantasy perspective. Threes, steals, percentages, rebounds. He gets blocks. And I just think as the season goes on, he's just going to get more and more time.
Even if you end up cutting him in a week, it's worth having him for this week, because, like you said, the minutes should be through the roof. And they have a busy schedule this week too. They play a back-to-back on Wednesday, Thursday, then play Saturday. So you can get 3 games in 4 nights, which is exactly what you're looking for a guy you're streaming. And 2 of those games, I mean, they're at Phoenix, Denver, and San Antonio. The first 2 are obviously great matchups. I know Denver's been decent defensively to start, but I'm not convinced it's going to last. Phoenix is going to be a bottom 5 defense. And then, they're in a super high-scoring game with the Spurs right now. So he's a great guy, at least for the rest of this week.
Here at the end, I got to pat myself on the back a little bit about Zach LaVine and his start. I get a lot of grief about it on here, but you could probably argue with me that he doesn't look like an all-star just because some of the decision-making during the game, but there's been plenty of all-stars who who weren't the greatest defenders.
I was just gonna say, offensively, I mean, you could argue he's playing at an all-star level. There's no doubt. Like,
he had 34
efficiency
tonight
is
on
through the
11 of
roof,
15.
right. Like, even if the turnovers have been relatively high, the efficiency shooting the ball has been incredible. Like, again, 5 turnovers today to only 2 assists is pretty rough.
Yeah, but 2 steals and a block. Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's had as many assists or as many turnovers as assists every game or more turnovers, which isn't great. But if he's doing what he's doing in every other category, it doesn't matter. Like, he shot over 50% every game. He's made 9 threes in 3 games. Great free throw volume. He's doing everything for a fantasy perspective that we could hope for. And if I'm not saying he's going to necessarily keep this up, but if he's anything reasonably close to this, you absolutely nailed it. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, you got to think with Markkanen coming back, that takes a little bit of the pressure off him. He's not going to have to force it quite as much, so that could reduce the turnovers. I mean, he's still, his decision making still questionable, and he did have a whole year off. So right. I mean, I don't know. I wish I had got him on more teams at this point.
Right.
Another interesting thing.
Actually, I was just gonna say too. I think he might actually help. Like, they got Shaq Harrison, who got waived from Phoenix the day before the season, which was kind of bizarre because everyone thought he was going to start for them. Like, they're playing Cameron Payne 17 minutes. He is just like shockingly bad. And if LaVine gets any minutes that aren't with Payne, that'll help too. Like, it's hard to put into words just how bad Cameron Payne is right now. And just having Dunn, and if Harrison ends up taking those backup point guard minutes, I think that'll help too. Like, it's just so tough. And like you said, the spacing will be better with Markkanen back because Portis has actually played very well, but he's not the 3-point threat that Markkanen is. And offensively, the Bulls, they have a chance to be a top 10 offense. It's not impossible. Like I said, they're probably going to be 30th in defense, if not very close to it. But they're great for DFS and normal fantasy for that matter too.
Yeah, and another thing that jumped out at me from that game was Wendell Carter Jr. got 31 minutes.
If he's playing that, he's going to be getting 1.7 to 2 blocks a game and just be a monster by the end of the year. I know the offense is definitely going to take some time, but the rebounding blocks are going to be good. And he had 4 assists, which is nice too. It's going to be up and down, but I really like him long term, and it's good for them to just commit to the young guys. Like, there's no reason not to. Robin Lopez only playing 9 minutes. I wonder, he had 5 fouls. I wonder if that was part of it, but there's no reason why they shouldn't be playing Carter, Jabari, Don, LaVine, and just seeing what they have, because they have to make these decisions on these players sooner than later. And when you have a lot of cap space, they're presumably going to have a fairly high draft pick because I think the defense is going to be so bad that it's going to cap them at like 30 wins at the best case, really. You're going to have to get a pick, and you're going to have a high pick, and you're going to have to nail it. And is anyone on this team good enough that it's blocking you from taking, another shooting guard because of LaVine or a power forward because of Markkanen? Can Jabari play with all these guys, or are you going to let him go after 1 year? There's a lot of questions, and better to get an answer now, because if you wait to the end of the year, there's too many teams that are tanking. Your team's not good enough, and these playoff teams are really pushing. It's hard to really tell if the guy's really as good as he's playing or not. It's better to find out sooner than later.
Say it'd be really good on this Bulls team is Jimmy Butler. They could use a guy like him.
Yeah, just a little.
It really is the year of the rookie, though, right? I mean, can you remember the last time this many rookies had an impact on fantasy like this? With Jaren Jackson and Trae Young. I mean, not only getting minutes, but effective minutes.
Right. No, it's been a while. I mean, I think teams are finally starting to realize, just get them in there right away and see what they got. They were the top guys last year, obviously, but I feel like there's just going to be a higher quantity of them this year. I think you're right on that.
Yeah, it was just a stacked draft.
State fan. Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts on Draymond, how he looks in the early going? Because it looks like, to me, he's completely scared of shooting the ball. ball. Like he scored 2 points, 14, and then 4. He's got 5 to this point. And I know you're not owning him for points, but if he's not giving you if he's averaging under 10 points, it's pretty tough for him to give back the value where he's getting drafted, which is probably, I don't know, the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just want to know what your thoughts on him are on the early going, because like that you talk, like he's getting left completely wide open on threes, and he's just not even really trying to take them. And I'm not like concerned about it for Golden State, in the long run, but it is kind of mess up their spacing a little bit when, if they have him and Iguodala out there and they're both getting left completely wide open.
Yeah, I wonder he looked tentative to me, like you said, and I'm wondering how much that has to do with the knee injury he had, and I know he's had shoulder issues. You wonder if just like, because it seemed like he doesn't seem to quite have that spark, I guess, when I watch the games. Like it does feel like his energy level's low. Like if he had one of those little like bars next to him, like in a video game where it's green at the top, and his would definitely be some like in the yellow, sort of red place. And I maybe it could just be getting back into the flow after missing some time in the preseason. Maybe he didn't quite do the conditioning that he had during this off season. After you win 3 titles and 4 finals in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of those things too. We're right. He's played so many finals, and to the point where it's like it's the regular season. I'm gonna conserve a bit and not go as crazy on a nightly basis, and I wouldn't blame him for it one bit. I just was a bit surprised, depending on how today goes, and while I'm saying this, they're up 30 points in the third quarter. He might not play anymore. It could be 3 out of 4 games where he has 5 points or less, which is obviously
I mean, tough. 3 steals, 8 assists, 4 boards. I mean, 3 for 3 on free throws. He's still going to. That's why you draft Draymond, because you're getting production, like no matter what. But I agree. I'd never draft Draymond for whatever. Like I just don't like guys that don't score a lot of points.
I've never had him. I'm not worried. Like, it's not a thing. Like I try to avoid him either. I just never have ended up having him. And at least if he's not going to make threes, at least give me the field goal percentage. At least like start getting to the rim more and more, and get the shoot, push 50%. If you're not going to give me threes, kind of like with Simmons, you're eating the 0 and threes, but at least he's going to give you a quality field goal percentage. Even if Draymond's not doing it on volume, that would be nice. But it's just something worth monitoring. I think again, it's only 4 games, but maybe he is to the point where he's going to conserve some energy and not go as crazy in the regular season.
Yeah, and I think the bigger story might be that I think Klay Thompson's only hit 2 threes this whole season. He made 1 tonight, and I think he only had 1 3-pointer coming into this game.
It seems so crazy.
I know. You feel like there's this game coming up where he's going to drop like 60 and a half or something. Where some crazy hot streak is coming up, because Steph Curry's been unbelievable. I mean, just the shots he hits, and Kevin Durant's been Kevin Durant, and Damian Jones, that kid looks super athletic and quick, and Kevon Looney can play. Where I guess maybe the biggest bust so far of the season, we haven't even touched on it, is Jordan Bell. Considering a lot of fantasy experts, including all of us, we're really targeting him. And he's DNPs. Coach decisions.
I'm pretty shocked by it, honestly. Like I just feel like the upside he gives them defensively is worth playing. I like what Looney can do. I'm not sure Jones, come playoff time, is going to be able to give enough on defensive end of the floor. You said he is a freak athlete, but he's a bit reckless, and I feel like Bell's a bit more disciplined back there. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. That's something I feel like Kerr's going to flip-flop throughout the year. I feel like Looney's the one guy who's going to be playing every night, and I wouldn't surprise me at some point if Bell ends up playing Jones is the one who's getting DNP'd, and then it flips back even. But you're right. I mean, it's a killer for Bell. I mean, you can't own him right now. If it's in a roto league where you have cap starts and you can hold him on your bench and be patient, then great. But if you're in a head-to-head league, you can't own him right now. And Isaac,
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
saying
Let's touch
quickly,
on
like
Isaac, yeah.
Jonathan Isaac too, in the same way as Bell, but he got dropped everywhere. He's at 5% owned on ESPN, where Bell is still like at 30. It
Wait,
should be
Jonathan
the other way
Isaac's only
around.
5% owned?
But I'm looking at right now. I think
Oh, my.
everyone panic dropped him, and he finally had
Go get him right now
a
if you're listening
decent
to
game
this.
today. Like
Yeah.
again, he had more points than he did in the first 3 games, and the defensive stats aren't there yet. But
The minutes are there. That's how you know. Like, if Bell had the minutes there and the stats weren't there, I'd be like, don't panic. But because there's no
right.
minutes, there's not going to be anything. Jonathan Isaac's getting the playing time, getting the minutes.
Right. Yeah, he shot 8 for 12 today. He made 2 threes with his 18 and 12. I know Vucevic, you mentioned from the beginning, he started really well, but it just seems like he's going to get traded. He's expiring at some point.
Yep.
And once they reach that point, Isaac's minutes are going to go even higher with Bamba, with Gordon. They're going to see what they have with those guys, and maybe they have their own young three-headed core. I mean, they don't have an Anthony Davis, but those 3 guys might be playing 30-plus minutes each and all have plenty of fantasy value. So Isaac is a guy who should be even better as the season goes along. And
Agreed.
like you said, it's worth holding on to him.
That's why you gotta these guys that produce when they start slow. Go get them in a trade. Get them off waivers. Right. Somebody dropped John Collins in a 12-team Roto league that I'm in with an IL spot.
Yeah,
like people
insane.
do stupid things. Yeah, and I had like the last waiver priority, so I didn't get them. But people do stupid things in your league. Just jump in there and grab these guys. Like don't hesitate if they're doing bad. Just trust the numbers, trust.
Yeah, I've gotten the habit of every day when I look at my team to just go to the waiver wire and just see or just go to the last transactions from the last day.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody did something insane, because then there's been times where I miss something and I'm like, how is this guy even available? And I see someone picked him up and kind of lose my mind that I blew this opportunity to grab somebody. So you're right. Always look.
Just look at like the top ranked guys or the most added guys. Look at like the preseason projection ones, because that's when you'll see like the guys who were ranked really high before the draft. Like if they're on your waiver wire, that's how I saw John Collins. It pops up as like the number 1 guy by a mile, and I was like, what? Somebody drop that guy? It's crazy.
That's insane.
I know. I don't even get it. But hey, that's if there's a lesson you take from this podcast, it's people do stupid things in fantasy. Take advantage of it. So and buy low. Take advantage of people panicking on guys. I've seen Towns get traded for not as much as probably he's worth just because he had a couple bad games. Like that's the best way to play fantasy is to take advantage of people who don't know how to play. So
it's very true.
All right, Viz. Well, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. Excited about the beginning of the season. Anything you want to plug coming up? The hockey site or any articles you have coming up?
Just the usual, daily or the notes 3 days a week. A couple other writers are giving buy low or buy sell articles, all that good stuff. So just hockey.resball.com, and hopefully I get that podcast going again soon too. But glad to be back on the basketball one. Brent's doing a great job with the YouTube channel, so please take a look at that too.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's we do it all for free. I do it for free. I just do it for fun because I really like doing it, and it takes a lot of time. But seeing the comments and seeing all the subscribers, that's what makes it all worth it. So if you want us to, keep doing it, just comment, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. We'd appreciate it. So we'll be back next week, and have a good night.